Hey folks, welcome to episode 465 of the Voxology podcast. We're taking a little break from the current series To Be Human to talk about love. Today we'll start with a little bit of an introduction, catching up on some things. Then at about the 5-minute mark, we will segue into a discussion about politics and just everything that happened this last week and all the craziness that has ensued. And what are we supposed to do with all of that? Then at the 14-minute mark, we read an email from a listener asking about how do you define loving a member of your family who is transitioning, who is asking to be called by a new name with new pronouns. What is the right posture to take? And even more so, what is the right posture to take with family members who refuse to do so, who think it is more important and loving to rebuke rather than accept? And then at the 21-minute mark, we get into the content for today, which is all about love. What kind of distortions have we found to the way in which we are supposed to love one another? How do we resist those distortions? How do we posture ourselves within those different types of love? It's a really important conversation and an eye-opening one for how we are to go forward, how we are to posture ourselves in this world at this time. It's really interesting stuff. Here we go. I'm in that scenario.
I get to be Han? Punch and Chewy?
Yeah.
Well, hello there. Sometimes Tim and I are just talking, and all of a sudden it hits record. And so here we are. Welcome to another stirring, thrilling, exciting edition of the Voxology podcast. We're delighted to be with you today. And we're still getting feedback. Team Banter, Team Bible. Too long, too short, just right. It's fantastic. It's actually some of the most helpful feedback we've ever gotten from you all. So we're going to be adjusting in the future in a lot of different dimensions. Bookmarking, of course, being foremost among them. Timothy Stafford, still with the blonde hair, and as Seth would say, boring. Real quick, you were in San Diego this week. How was it? San Diego.
It was much cooler than Northern California. Oh, here boy. He comes.
Oh, yeah. He heard it. Oh, he threw a shirt on, ladies and gentlemen.
He knows the drill.
Okay, looks like I get Nate.
You're going to get Nate? Yes. Okay, well, they don't care about Nate, honey. Nate cares about Nate, but no one else is really in. Hi, Nate.
What's up?
Speak into this one right here.
Y'all don't care about me? That's crazy.
Well, the amount of emails addressed to Seth and the amount of emails addressed to Nate are, if we're going to take that into
pretty
account.
Lopsided.
Listen,
pretty
guys.
Lopsided. And there's Big Seth Erie.
Hey.
Hi.
Tim, nice hair, man.
Thank
I know,
you.
right?
Tell
Boeing.
Seth. Oh, there it is.
There it is. Seth is not a fan of the hair. Absolutely.
Why?
I think Seth he likes routine. He likes things to look and stay the same. And Tim's face most certainly does not at this point. So, Seth, you want to fill us in on your summer? Where are we going tomorrow? Oh, he's taking the AirPod. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Where are we going tomorrow?
What's good for Florida?
It's called Florida, guys, or as we call it, Florida.
Yeah.
Yep.
Florida.
Yep.
Yep.
Big drive. And
Big drive.
Yeah, who are you going to drive with tomorrow?
I take Daddy.
Oh, Daddy won the Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo contest, ladies
Congrats.
and gentlemen.
And now back to Nate.
And now back to Nate. Okay. Big Nate, tell us what's going on. How are you? Where are we going tomorrow?
Nothing much. I'm doing great. We're going to Florida.
Florida.
Get all
It's gonna
three
be-
Erie kids in the picture.
Fantastic. It's going to be magical.
Oh, is there a bee in there too?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a full house today.
guys. Yep.
Yep.
Hope you're doing well.
Yeah. There it is.
Peace out.
There's our intro. Thank you, boys and girls and everybody. That's our family. It's been a full. We've had family here from California, Ohio. Uncle Brad has been here this week, which has been awesome. So
Are they all in your
booyah.
house?
Not currently, and they've been staying at a hotel, which was nice.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot of people.
we're not built for that. We're not built for that. Okay. We have today, first of all, I mean, there have been a couple of things that have happened over the course of the last week, perhaps. First of all, Hulk Hogan last night, RNC
gosh.
convention.
Part of
Big
my childhood died.
Big deal. And then last Saturday, oh my goodness, Hannah texted us. We were out doing something. Hannah's like, did you just see Trump had been shot? And we were all like, what? So we go on and we see the video. And then I deleted social media off of my phone because of the very predictable responses. Thrilled that he's okay. Devastated that other people died. Yeah. Oh, that was a sharp intake of breath, Timothy. Yes.
I was just thinking you were the only disciplined one, because in our text thread we're all like, everyone delete your social media, but myself and our mutual friend did not. You did.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of messages in your box waiting for you when you get back.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I mean, I stayed on the Twitter X, just to hear more and find out more. But then it was like, okay, once the hot takes coming in, like,
oh, they were immediate.
Joe Biden ordered this assassination, and this is God's miracle.
That was big.
It was
rhetoric.
Like, okay,
that was big rhetoric at the convention last night.
I'm out. Yeah, I mean, and this goes back to something you've said so many times before. To say that God, saved him, but the other guy that died wasn't as important.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm so ridiculously offended at that language.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Come on, man. It's so thoughtless. And imagine being in the family of the guy that died and hearing, God spared everybody except your dude.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There must have been a reason for that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you're going to assign reasons, then you're really getting into dangerous biblical territory.
It really pollutes so much more too, just on the other side of the fence, not for that family, but for people who are searching for kind of truth or whatever in the world, and to have, I don't know, I think I counted like maybe 8 or 9 different, sitting people of the government saying that God, moved the bullet, God anointed him, that he is God's chosen. And I just think about all these little, like, some people I know and others who are sitting there watching the news and are taking all that in, and then what it does to their global picture outside of that, like not just for that one moment, but just the entire, what it means to be an American, what it means to have Donald Trump as your president. It's like, it just kind of, you know what I mean? It just like, it just starts to stack itself up more and more and more and create a really, really dangerous theology, and not just theology, theocracy.
Well, and we get so much crap, or we used to, because we're critical of like the Republican side's embrace of Trump. But I don't read many people on the left saying, hey, this is God's anointed candidate, or God spared his life, or even, I mean, there have been takes now, if you vote Democrat, you're not a Christian. If you have a moral and biblical duty to vote for Donald Trump, like that's coming from our tribe. Yeah. And so if the other side, if the other tribe was saying those sorts of things, we'd be opposed to that as well. That's blasphemy, is what that is. And I don't get how people don't see that it's our tribes and using biblical language, and the justifications of all of this are just absolutely nuts. I grew up with, hey, character matters, and that was fine until it didn't, and then it became, hey, we're hiring a president, not a pastor, so I guess character doesn't matter. And then it's, hey, God look at the evil people that God used in the Old Testament. So I don't know. The whole thing is disappointed. And then on both sides, the violent rhetoric of, our democracy's at stake. This is a battle of good and evil. I mean, it's just like, come on, man. This, it's absolutely nuts. So I just knew, I'm delighted that the former president that missed.
Mhm.
I'm delighted that political violence has no place at all, ever. And to have any Christian ever say, well, I'm too bad, he missed,
Right.
or, this gives us justification to go. I mean, Jesus died via political violence
Mhm.
and refused to enact political violence in kind. He would rather forgive his enemies than kill them.
Yeah.
Even though he had every opportunity to. And then the whole sword, put away your sword. Those who live by the sword will die by the sword. I mean, there isn't.
That specific scene could not be more clear. Jesus is kind of like, he can be a little vague sometimes to provoke or whatever, but that particular instance was very, very clear.
Yeah.
Like super clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
put away.
I cringe a little bit when I read it for Peter, where it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But then people are going to say, but yeah, didn't Jesus tell everyone to bring a sword? And
yeah, we've covered that.
Then you're into we have covered that ad nauseum. That is to fulfill a prophecy that like Luke literally quotes after this verse. It is not to be used. And we know it's not to be used because of the fact that Jesus heals one of the dudes that's there to put him to death.
There's the pull quote right there.
Yeah.
And we know it's true because Jesus kills.
Yes. Yeah. That's Kanye's new album.
Oh boy.
Anyway. So yeah, that was just, and so I don't know. I mean, where do you think we go with this, Timothy?
I was talking to my wife about it, and I'm just hopeful that I don't know what's going to happen in this election. I don't, whatever is going to happen is going to happen, and we're going to navigate the next 4 years accordingly. But after this one, I'm sure hoping that both parties have learned, and they're not just going to prop. I don't know. We'll see. But there are some younger, at least on the Democratic side, folks that I'm pretty excited about, that I like a lot, and they seem to be pretty kind-hearted and very smart people. So I'm hoping that once we get through this, I don't know. Last night they were saying that Biden was thinking about stepping down. So you're not a Christian,
is what you're saying. You're not a Christian.
Yeah, remember, I've gotten rid of all labels.
Yeah,
not interested.
What were you saying?
If they say I'm I vote Democrat, I can't be a Christian. I say, okay, cool, you can have it.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, and I'm I'm a registered independent. So giddy up. I'll take
RFK all the way.
Yes.
And his worm
before
brains.
That was Ross Perot, and then Bernie. No, we can do a thing on voting. Let's do a thing on voting where we tell people how to vote.
Yeah. Everyone else.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Jesus-y. That's how we vote. But yeah, so I haven't lamented. I mean, I think when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died and you knew there was going to be this massive shift in the Supreme Court, and just wondering about what that was going to be like. I had that same sort of, oh man, I'm delighted that there wasn't more carnage. And at the same time to grieve with the people that were injured and this family who lost a loved one, and at the same time to go who is going to de-escalate this? I don't know. So I don't know. I wasn't feeling particularly hopeful or optimistic prior to this. I'm fighting on for hope though. I love Cornel West has this great statement. I'm not optimistic, but I'm a prisoner of hope.
He's running.
So, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So we got a question that I thought is worthy of a step out of To Be Human for a second. No one's going to complain about, we didn't get the 27th episode of the To Be Human series today. Tim and Mike and I got permission to share this. So very nice introduction. And basically we're going to keep this super vague, but you'll get the gist. My sister's child, age 12 going on 13, has come out as trans. They have asked others to refer to them with a new name and new pronouns. My sister and her husband are not Christians and have honored their child's request. I have a very large family, and they have asked the rest of us to use the new name and pronouns as well. They have said that to protect their child, they will not be seeing any family that doesn't refer to their child as requested. I personally am going to respect their request. I'm just being vague here and with names and pronouns for privacy. I won't go into all the reasons, but basically I just think it's the most loving thing, and it's what Jesus would do. Keeping the relationship gives me more opportunity to love them and walk with them. I don't see any positive outcomes in trying to convert their thinking as to what may or may not be biblically accurate. Some of the family has harshly denied their request, using language like, I love you, but I love my Lord more. And some are on the fence, but leaning towards not using the requested pronouns. Some have said that truly loving the child is encouraging them to love who God made them to be, their gender assigned at birth. I worry this could be a nail in the coffin on those relationships and a stain on their, quote, Christian witness. The questions I have for you guys are, if a child in your family were trans and this request were made, what would you do? How would you define, quote, loving them? I apologize if you already answered a similar question. I looked, but wasn't able to find anything specific. So he said, and he has this great line. He says, please know that I'm not going to take what you say as advice. That is so wise. That is so wise. I just love to hear your thoughts. So what a wonderful, wonderful question. Now, let's deal first with trans ideology and biblical theology and say, this isn't the point of this question, the question that's being asked. In other words, if you agree with some of the ideology that says, yeah, kids can choose their gender, and it is loving to do that, and as young as 10, 11, 12, 13, that's okay, and respect the parents, then this is an easy question for you. For others, this really provokes at one of the major pieces of culture warring that's happening in our world, the redefinition of what it is to be gendered versus sexed versus biological versus sociological, nature and nurture, and so on. And I'm not smart enough, Tim might be, but I'm not smart enough to get into all of the nuances of point and counterpoint about this. I don't think just quoting Genesis 1 solves the issue. Preston Sprinkle wrote a book called Embodied, where, and Preston, love him or hate him, he does his darndest to be fair. And so he's in conversation with trans-identified folks on all sides of the issue, and he's doing his best. And he presents the conservative kind of case, but he has some nuances that are really sort of spectacular. So I would refer you to that book, and there are loads of others. Mark Yardhouse is coming out with one too about just some of the theology and some of the bigger questions around these issues. That's not the question. The question is, hey, regardless of what I believe, I'm being asked to love a family member in this way. What do you do? And I want to talk through this, and even last Saturday's assassination attempt, when we're talking about loving enemies and loving neighbors, and this word love gets thrown around so randomly. And I think there are some pretty major American evangelical distortions of the word compared to how the Bible uses it that I want to go over. And I want to shout out. Did I say shit out?
You sure did.
I want to shout out. That's awful. May, keep that at your own risk. We want to shout out the Vox OC crew who had a test drive of some of this material when I was privileged to share it with them. So what I want to do, Tim, because for you, like this is a really easy question for you.
It is.
I mean, you're fighting school boards and all sorts of things for people to have this sort of freedom, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is not hard for you. This is come on, guys. This is like no-brainer Jesus following 101 stuff.
Yeah. That's why I had to get rid of those names like evangelical and Christian.
What's great, I don't know if you all know this, Tim and I, we're not always on the same place on some of these things, which I absolutely love. And so, yeah, for Tim, this is no brainer. And for me, ultimately, it's no brainer too, but I want to show my work a little bit.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about what it means to love, especially in light of some of the things that other family members are saying.
I think it's a genius topic, especially like you said, not just in this conversation, but also in the larger political conversation. And I don't know how many emails we get about my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my sisters, my whatever have this political belief or supporting this. I don't know what to do in my family. Like I don't know how to be in my family. Yeah. And that's really hard.
It is. It really is. It really, really is. And it's just, it feels like it's not getting better. It's just getting harder.
It does feel that way.
Because all these things have become litmus tests now of whether you're for Jesus or against him. And that's, that's all the bounded thinking stuff we've talked about, whatever. So
bounded.
Yes.
Go.
Yes. The word love, true love,
what is love?
What has it got to do with it? Why is it a battlefield? All the 80s references, absolutely.
Why does it hurt?
How do I know when it's love? Van Halen wondered. Why does it hurt? So to say it is the absolute center of the Christian life is no understatement. I mean, Paul literally takes the entire 613 commands of the Torah and says they are summed up in love God and love neighbor. Mm-hmm. There you go. So it's not like Torah is off of Christians. It's just been summarized and embodied in Christ. The Spirit is now residing in us, which wasn't always true of the entirety of Israel. And but that law still is in effect. Like love God, love neighbor. That summarizes the entire law. I mean, Paul will just say, the only thing that counts, not even circumcision, but it is love working itself out through the church community. So it's so important. And the English word, of course, is so elastic. I love Pearl Jam. I love ice cream. I love my wife, and I love Jesus. Same word used for all those. And it's rife with abuse. So I want to talk about 3 different distortions of love, and then kind of add a correction to those distortions. All right. So
you've heard it said, but I say
that's it. And so here we go. Distortion number 1, and this we're driving to answer this gentleman's question. But it also, I think this applies so broadly. And so this is stuff that's actually changed my life. Like, if you want to know how I've grown as a Jesus follower, this stuff right here is stuff that's done it. So a radical re-understanding of what it means to love enemy, neighbor, and God. Huge. So
do it. Bring it.
Distortion number 1. Love primarily means to have affection for or some sort of inward disposition of loyalty towards somebody else. So love, and I know it's not true, but we swim in the water of love as a feeling. Love is a feeling. So I feel lovingly towards you. Mm-hmm. In marriage, of course, we can fall in and out of love. I mean, the whole thing. So in the Bible, love is an action word, just like faith is an action word, or believe is an action word. Love, saying loving things or feeling loving things, is totally irrelevant to the concept of what love is. So the best example of that is the command to love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? This is not a command to love yourself. Because again, I think love myself means I approve of myself. I'm not embarrassed of myself. I don't feel guilt towards myself. I'm comfortable in myself. No, the command assumes you already love yourself. Now, in the Bible, what does it mean to love yourself? This is simple. This has nothing to do with your self-esteem or self-acceptance. Those are important things, but that's not what this is talking about.
It has to do with being human.
It has to. Well, how do I know that I love myself? In biblical terms, I feed myself when I'm hungry. Mm-hmm. I clothe myself when I'm cold, and I strategize and use money to gain liquids and nutrients and, when I'm thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what it looks like. The command assumes you love yourself. How do I know if I love myself? Well, you have clothes on, you've fed yourself, you've groomed yourself. That's what it means to love yourself. Now, the command is quite literally the strategy and the energy and the intention that you do to provide food and clothing and drink and shelter for you. Use that for your neighbor.
Yeah.
You don't have to like them. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to know them. It doesn't matter if they take advantage of you. All of that is utterly irrelevant. The same attention and strategizing and effort that you take towards feeding and clothing and taking care of yourself, use that to your neighbor. Nothing about whether or not you like them, agree with them, hate them. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Does not matter. So you can despise your neighbor internally and still love them in this regard.
Yeah.
Right?
Bring it.
If you have the opportunity to help them, you do. And if you have the opportunity to harm them, you do not. That's what it means to love your neighbor, to love your enemy. There it is. Has nothing to do with what you think about them.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with what they think about you. This is just what it is to fulfill the law of Christ. And Jesus pulls at this thread when he talks about how God, that like in Luke's account, the defining characteristic of children of God is their love of neighbor and enemy alike. And then Jesus in Luke's account is talking about how the rain and the sun are gifts to the just and unjust alike, without discrimination. So the first, because people will say, well, okay, but what if they take advantage of it? Not your problem. Now, I do think there are better ways to love and clothe than maybe just giving somebody $5 on the street.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's what you end up doing because you want to be that kind of person to always say yes, then do it. Absolutely do it. We do, I think, want to be wise and discerning about what the best, most effective ways are. But I just remember, having a conversation with a dear friend in Portland, and they have a massive homeless problem. And the universal wisdom there is, buy them a meal. Do not give them money.
Or when we were in Long Beach, we were running a life group out of Rock Harbor in Long Beach area. And we were working with the shelter there. And the guy that was running the shelter had come up through the shelter. He had been rehabilitated as somebody who was unhoused and then came up through it and was running the shelter, which I thought was just freaking awesome. But he had such a heart for it. And he was just like, look, and I'm telling this just to support your point of discernment. Like, he's like, it's great that you want to give to people on the street or whatever, but your $5 to them or $5 to the shelter in the shelter goes much further. And we are housing and feeding and trying to rehabilitate people. So it was like, it was just a matter of like knowing that this could be a more constructive way of loving folks.
But even if it wasn't, love anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
Even if you're in danger of condoning behavior, we're going to get to that in a second. Love anyway. Like, this is what it means to love. If you have the opportunity to help, you do it. And if you have the opportunity to harm, you don't.
Yeah.
And that's gossip, slander. I mean, you can apply that across our speech and behavior patterns. Totally. And it doesn't matter what you individually think of the person. That is irrelevant to the equation.
I have a long story. I told the Arthur Forbes story on here before. I won't tell it now, but that Tony Campolo story. Well,
yes, you did. But go for it again.
I'll do a really short version. Tony Campolo told the story a long time ago, and I've shared it in probably 20 different sermons that I've given just because of this point. But it was a pastor. He had this guy named Arthur Forbes in his congregation, and he would always show up late to church, always sit in different places, which always pisses people off who have their prescribed seats in mind for church mornings. He would smell bad, XYZ. He was loud. And then one week he didn't show up, and the pastor's like, well, I wasn't totally bummed out that he didn't show up. He's such a distraction in the service, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets a phone call that week, and it's Arthur, and he just yells at him, I'm sick. Come and give me communion. Come to my house and give me communion. So he goes over there and he says the house is full of trash. It smells bad. But begrudgingly so, he goes there and does it. And he comes back a few more times throughout the week to do this. And he's washing dishes and doing these things, but he's feeling really angry about it because this guy's just kind of taking advantage of the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day he goes and knocks on the door and Arthur doesn't respond. And he goes into the house and finds Arthur laying on the floor unconscious. And he'd had a heart attack or something. And so he calls 911 and Arthur is really dirty and sweaty and smelly. So he cleans him as the ambulance is coming and gets him all prepped so that he won't feel embarrassed when he gets taken by the ambulance. Goes to the hospital. I'm trying to do a speed round version. And the hospital calls and says, hey, Arthur Forbes has died. And the pastor says he started to weep when he found out that Arthur had died. And he realized that in doing what was being obedient to loving whatever, even though his heart wasn't in the place to begin with, his heart was the one that was completely changed by the end of it.
That's it.
And I always thought that was pretty straightforward way of illustrating this idea of just like sometimes loving your neighbor does change you. It is a ministry to yourself sometimes in a weird way that can cause your heart to transform. Because when you're talking about like don't slander, don't gossip, if that is a go-to muscle for you, abstaining from doing that starts to change the way your heart approaches conversations and that kind of stuff. So I just think it's so profound. It's not just like don't just do this one thing. It can utterly change your entire spirit in a weird way which is
even
amazing.
if they trigger you. I mean, now again, and I can hear all the buts. Like, yes, of course, in an abusive situation, or yeah. But let's just start with the vast majority of who we're invited to love is not one of those exceptions. And so even in social media, to not try to harm someone in social media, you know what I mean? Like that's a huge practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So distortion 1, love is really about how I feel about somebody. And it's just not even remotely. That's why loving God doesn't matter if you feel worshipful. It doesn't matter if your affections, like the critique is against the Pharisees. Hey, you honor me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me. God never looks at somebody and says, hey, your heart's with me, but your lips are off. He never does the reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Big.
Like,
absolutely.
That is big. All right. Distortion number 2, my friend. I have to tell someone I disagree or disapprove of them before I love them. This is the American evangelical, choice right here. I'll love them, but I have to make sure they know I don't approve of them.
Yeah. It's loving to point the sin out. I am loving them by whatever.
Totally. Yeah. Exactly. And so we're going to do something I've talked about ad nauseum in sermons. This is my, Forbes story. But it changed my life. This material changed my life. Scott McKnight, a book called The Fellowship of Difference, talked about, because love is so squishy, what does it mean biblically to love? And he says, okay, well, let's look at how God loves. And he said, the first thing is that you notice about God's love is God loves through covenant. And covenant is promise. Covenant is expectation. Covenant is faithfulness. Like God just doesn't arbitrarily I love some, but not others. God loves through covenant. And covenant fundamentally, and we could do weeks on covenant, but fundamentally covenant is a commitment that God makes to another person. And often the commitment is one-sided. To Abraham, I will make you great. When in Genesis, I think it's, 15 or 17, God cuts a covenant with Abram and walks through twice. He walks through the body parts twice, saying, Abram, if you don't carry your end of this covenant, then I will carry the punishment of that. And we've talked about, that at that moment. We have a whole
episode on that verse that we'll have to dig up, because I remember that was a sermon that you gave, and I was like, this should be Christianity 101. This should be exactly where we start.
I think we call it like God walked through twice.
Yeah.
The greater party walks through first, the lesser party walks through the second time. But in this case, God put Abram in a visionary sleep and walked through twice.
Yeah.
So, and one very famous teacher It just said, hey, and at that moment, Jesus was sentenced to die, because it was like the covenant. It's a covenant of blood.
Yeah.
That if one of the members doesn't fulfill the terms of the covenant, what we did to the animals, you can do to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all that is to say, a lot of the covenants are just God's commitment to somebody regardless. Now, there are conditional covenants like, hey, stay in the land. That's conditional on you, Israel, making good choices. Yeah. Like Seth Erre staying in the pool is conditional upon making, good choices. But even in conditional covenants, God is still committed to them.
Yeah.
Right. So even in exile, he was committed to them, committed to bringing them back, committed to restoration, committed to them while they were away, the whole thing. So the first thing about covenant love is that it is God's ruthless commitment to a group of people. That's the first thing. So that word "to," focus on that. The second thing he said is it's God's rugged commitment to be with his people in covenant. So he's committed to them, and then he's committed to be with them. The great promise. I mean, this is how Jesus ends the book of Matthew. I will be with you always to the very end of the age. The Bible ends with God's with his people. Tabernacle, I want to be with my people. Temple, I want to be with my people. Jesus, with my people. The Holy Spirit, with my people. The Bible ends with God with his people. So it's not just that God is committed to people, but he's committed to be with them. His presence is with them. Often this will be said like, they will be my people and I will be their God. And so you could literally tell the whole gospel story in terms of God's intention to get closer and closer to the people he loves. So God's love is a commitment to somebody, and God's love is a commitment to be with somebody. And then the third part of that is God's commitment to be for somebody, to be for their flourishing. It's no coincidence that the Holy Spirit is called the advocate, which like our English word means somebody in a courtroom setting who is justifying you before a judge. So advocate means that God is for our humanity. He's for our flourishing. When Genesis opens, it's nothing but blessing. The first command, enjoy all of the fruit of the trees, right? Any theology that starts with God is angry or God is hating or God is whatever, that is not only harmful, but it's just dead wrong. God is a God who blesses in the book of Genesis before he does anything else. So God is for us. Now, God will define for us differently than we define for us, and that's why sometimes it doesn't feel like God's for us. And this goes into the fourth word that McKnight uses. God's covenant is a commitment to us, a commitment to be with us, a commitment to be for us, and then he has a commitment where he loves us in a direction. And in early McKnight work, he calls that God's towarding love. He loves us toward something, which is Christ-likeness, right? When we raise kids, we have a towarding love too. Like we're towarding our kids to maturity, right? Or adulthood, however we define that. So God's loving us, God being for us doesn't mean he's for us to experience the American dream, or he's for us to believe in myself and experience a Disney kind of storybook life. He's for us in the sense that he's loving us towards Christ-likeness in our imperfection, in our frailty, in our mortality, in our sinfulness. Now, and I know you've heard this, so thank you for looking interested.
That's great reminders.
The big point that McKnight makes, and this is the one that totally flipped my heart upside down, is he says the order of these matters. Because if you try to toward somebody before they are convinced that you're committed to them, you're committed to be with them, you're committed to be for them. If you try to toward somebody before they've internalized your love for them, it feels like control or manipulation.
Or power over.
It doesn't feel like love. Or power over, exactly. It doesn't feel like love. For it to feel like love, they have to know you're committed to them, to be with them, and that you're for them.
Yeah.
And this is the best parenting, right? I mean, this works on a total human level. And so there is a place for towarding. The Bible towards us, and the church is to toward one another. Absolutely. But in what context is the towarding to happen.
Right.
It's in the context of we're committed to each other, we're committed to be with each other, we're committed to be for each other. And that I believe that about you so that when you toward me, I receive it as love and internalize it as love.
Mm-hmm.
That for me was totally revolutionary, which means if the distortion is I have to tell you I disagree with you before I love you,
Mm-hmm.
that is towarding before you do anything else.
Yep.
And that isn't what biblical love is. Biblical love is I'm committed to you regardless. Now, that doesn't mean our relationship doesn't change, right? I mean, sometimes what like being committed to your kids means that you have to do really hard things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is a whole thing about God disciplining those he loves. Now, that's misunderstood as punishment, and that's a whole separate thing. But of course, God towards us, he towards me towards holiness. He'll bring people into my life that will call me on things, but because they're committed to me, they're with me, they're for me, I hear that. I mean, Tim has towarded me through some things. Our mutual friend has, my wife has, my kids have. So when I get random emails that say, hey, you're this, or this, I don't give a rat's because there's no relational stake in the game.
Well, take that on both sides of the fence too. So if you are towarding somebody and you have been to, with, for, and they know that and they trust you and they're willing to listen because of that. But also, what does that do for you as the towarder?
Totally. It takes me out of...
Well, but also you intimately know that person. Like when you're towarding, you're doing it not out of like, out of spite or anger or whatever. You're most likely going to be towarding with their interests and their understanding of who they are as a person in mind. Because that'll be different for each. Like, think about your 3 kids.
Yeah.
You're going to have to toward each of them a little bit differently. Yeah.
Totally. And it also takes you out of the power over spot. Absolutely. To be committed to somebody, for somebody, with somebody. See, power over is just, hey, I'm towarding everybody. Mm-hmm. That's just a version of power over. And it really does nothing except cement the person in the opposite direction.
Yeah, right. Toward them away.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So McKnight puts it this way. Wanting direction for a person without presence or advocacy is experienced by that other person as coercion or manipulation. We must earn through presence and advocacy the entrance into the connection required to be a person who can help guide another into kingdom realities. Mm. That's it. So I've got a non-Christian family looking at me, a Jesus follower, saying, I'd like for you to call my child this name with these pronouns. I would suggest that on the basis of that, I do not need to lead with, hey, I disagree before I do that. Mm-hmm. All right. And this takes us to our third distortion. Our third distortion is, and this was brought up by this emailer, our third distortion is, if I love someone, I will speak harsh truth to them.
Yeah.
Right? That is, and I've heard this about evangelism, like you like to really love someone means you have to tell them the truth. And it'll be something like, listen, why would you lie to cancer patients? Like, don't tell them take 2 aspirin for cancer. You got to tell them they have cancer. Right. And then you tell them what you can do about it. You got to tell them the bad news before you tell them the good news. Come on, man. You don't hide the fact that they're sinners damned to hell. So of course it's more loving to tell them. That's sort of the approach. And the justification of that approach often is a passage in Ephesians where it says speaking the truth in love, and then there's a whole other clause after that usually gets ignored. And so speaking the truth in love is often applied as, hey, there's a continuum between truth on one end and love on the other. And love means you're not saying the truth, and truth means you're just saying the truth. Mm-hmm. Love means you're preserving the relationship, but you're lying to the person, or you're omitting something. And truth means, yeah, it may hurt the relationship, but at least you're saying facts. Yeah. And so it's presented to us as a continuum. Now, Gambus and I have actually worked on this. And by worked on this, I mean, I called Gambus to make sure my work was right. But we actually took some time on this because he made an offhand comment years ago that there's no verb in speaking the truth in love, that phrase, there's no verb for speaking. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's impossible. Why would you? And so I go into the Greek stuff, and he's right. It's just Paul almost invents a word. He turns the word truth into a participle, which means he turns it into an ing word.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, the phrase is truthing in love, or truthing with love, or truthing by love.
Yeah.
And when you read the context, and I dare you to do it, dear listener, read Ephesians 4. Speaking the truth in love is being held against the idea of a crafty and deceitful doctrine that carries people away. All right? So speaking the truth in love is to the church, first of all. But then he goes on to talk about when you are truthing in love, it's about how you treat each other, not what you say to each other. Mm-hmm. So all the examples that come in Ephesians 4 are all about put off anger and put on work. Don't just mooch off of people, but put your hands to good use. You can be generous to the poor. That's what truthing in love looks like. So literally, there's no continuum. On the one hand, telling the truth, and on the other hand, being loving. It's literally the idea that the way the community of Christ tells the truth about Christ is by loving.
Yeah. That's
what that whole thing means. Gambas got his PhD in Ephesians, so I trust his interpretation of this. But when I've studied it independently, when I've looked up the Greek dictionaries and all of that, he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So the point is, ladies and gentlemen, first, love isn't a feeling word. If we have opportunity to do harm, we refuse. And if we have opportunity to do good, we do it. Mm-hmm. And we do it just like we do it for ourselves, right? I do good to myself all the time.
And we've unpacked that in the Lord's Prayer too, right? Like, teach us how to pray. And it's like, give us this day our daily bread, us, plural. Yes. When I have my bread, who doesn't have my bread? That even in that short little prayer, Jesus is advocating for something akin to this.
That's right. That's exactly right. Second distortion. Yeah. But I don't want to give the appearance that I'm condoning sin. Okay, well, let's look at what covenant love is. And the way Christ exercised covenant love is through table fellowship and restoring sinners back into fellowship with Israel. Like when he says about Zacchaeus, I must eat at your house. Zacchaeus says, oh, my Lord, here and now I'd get rid of everything. And then Jesus says, when everyone begins to mutter, this man is a child of Abraham. Mm-hmm. Today, salvation has come to his house. Like he's restoring people back to this covenant community. And when you look at how Jesus did that, Jesus was accused of condoning sin. We've talked about this before. When he's called friend of sinners in Luke, Luke 9, somewhere in Luke, he's called friend of sinners and glutton and drunkard. And glutton and drunkards, as we've talked about, is like it's a criminal offense in Deuteronomy 21, where a son who is disobedient to his parents and leading Israel astray will be brought to the city gates and stoned to death. And you would say, this man is a glutton or drunkard. So they were saying about Jesus, this man is leading Israel astray and he's disobeying his family. Because remember, his family shows up and tries to take him away because they thought he was out of his mind. Mm-hmm. Then the charge, how he's leading Israel astray, is he's a friend of sinners. So friend of sinners means that you are sharing kinship with sinners. You're condoning their sin. You're accepting them in their sin before the traditional markers of Jewish repentance were in place. Yeah. And so I'm not saying there isn't a place to talk about sin, and there isn't a place, right, to toward each other towards holiness. I think that stuff really matters. I really do, like absolutely. But when you're dealing with a Christian community and here's a non-Christian family saying, hey, we'd really appreciate if you would honor my child's chosen identity through their pronouns and through their new name. For Christians to say, nope, I have to tell you, I love my Lord more. Yeah. Loving your Lord, if it's done properly, will lead you back into loving your neighbor. Mm-hmm. Now, if the family said, hey, what do you think about this? And you had, and they knew you were in no matter what they chose, go for it. I have questions about it. I don't understand it. I wonder if that's too young. I don't know that that's wise. I mean, whatever.
But that's out of curiosity too. So
correct.
Yeah.
But what we're not doing is just leading with, hey, you guys are idiots and this is dumb and I love Jesus more than doing this.
Yeah,
to participate
that's the
with
common
you is to
approach.
participate. Yeah, well,
like, do you want your child to go to hell?
Oh, and I understand it because somebody could say, listen, we want to deal in reality, and reality is biologically you're male or female. That's the reality. And we're just participating in some delusion to pretend otherwise. Now, if that's what you really think, then think that. I don't know what I think, quite honestly, about is biological sex that reducible? And Preston does a great job honoring all of the arguments, that are around this. This is a topic I feel way ill prepared. I can't imagine what it's like to feel not at home in your body. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
And so I want to be super careful. That doesn't mean I disagree with a lot of like ideology that's out there, that it's just socially constructed. I don't think that's true, but I don't have sophisticated biological or theological arguments about this. But my point in even just saying a little bit about what I think is to say what I'm thinking doesn't matter when it comes to questions like this. Because I think no matter what view you take in a situation like this, you show hospitality to the person, you receive them in their requested way. That's what it means to love them. And for those that say, well, no, I have to disagree with them first, or I might be condoning their sin. What I've tried to do is just show briefly that's to misunderstand what it means to love. Right. Particularly to love your enemy by definition means that you don't agree or approve. That already, that's already a given in the term
your
enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why they're your enemy. If you just love people who are like you, tax collectors do that, Jesus says. So even if you just despise trans ideology and trans people, let's say that's true of you, the loving thing still is, and you would define that person and that family as enemy. The loving thing still is to love them and be hospitable to them. Anyway, what do you think?
I agree. Use some discernment. Be hospitable. Get out of your own way. And this is like also like when you're talking about I have to call out the sin or whatever, maybe this is like the most prudent time of getting the plank out of your own eye first before you run around telling everyone else they're going to hell. If calling out sin is
we've
that
not even
important
touched that stuff. Yeah. I always feel like Jesus.
I'm always just curious, like when you follow the trajectory of the church in America, and we've talked about this a little bit with like segregation and a lot of the church holding the line on that. And when that kind of went away, as the death throttles happened, the church pivoted to abortion. And now it's sexuality seems to be the new, I just wonder in 20, 30 years, we're going to look back and be like, I cannot believe we held such a hateful posture towards this community as we did with race, because the language around race was largely the same. It was dehumanizing. It was, and we just did such terrible things to people of color during that time period that now most of us look back and go like, wow, that I cannot believe that was a posture that was held.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We seem to learn very little, and that seems to be a biblical story as well, that we learn very little from our generations prior grievances. And I don't know, but
yep. So dear Voxology community, feel free to push back. I would love your thoughts. Again, I think there are some views that are in themselves bad, but I don't think it's as many as the accusations kind of suggest. I think what's more important is how our views are held. I think that's either as or more important than the views that we hold.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday on the phone about like just in the political realm, how there was clips circulating of how John McCain, when he was running against Obama, was like, an old lady was like, "Oh, he's a Muslim, blah 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 blah," and was kind of, going at Obama, and McCain kind of cut her off and was like, "Hey, that's not true. We may disagree on some things politically, but he's a fine man and a great family man, blah blah blah." And it's like, man, are we light years? Yeah. That feels like it was yesterday in time wise, but at the same time, it feels like it was generations ago that language like that was used on the largest stage in the land for politics. So it's not like we're not incapable of it. That was not that long ago that even on a national level, our rhetoric was about, we can disagree and we can break bread, or we can disagree and you used to advocate for that all the time. Like being at church, there's a lot of things that we can disagree on theologically or socially or whatever, and still break bread together because we're being intentional towards one another, not just, I'm right, you're wrong, get out.
The new humanity that Paul talks about between Jews and Gentiles, in America, it's only put on display when there's massive sets of differences sitting in the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we're all white, middle-aged Republican people, that's not the new humanity. That's not the church. Nope. End of story. And same with the progressive side. I mean, it's only when you're sitting in tension and you say, hey, there's something more important than my identity as, or my tribal affiliation. And that's why you hate when I say it, but I still think it's true that Paul would say,
we don't have time for that now.
That Paul would say that the unity you have with sincere brothers and sisters in Jesus. I'm not talking about people who call themselves
So maybe
Christian.
That's the key word, is sincere.
Yeah. I think sincere Jesus followers can hold multiple political positions and have a unity that's greater than their differences. So that when I look at somebody who's a sincere Jesus follower on the other side of the political aisle, I have more in common with them than I do with somebody who doesn't follow Christ, who agrees with me politically.
Yeah, that sincere thing is a big...
Well, that's the caveat, because people call themselves Christians all the time. And Jesus acknowledged there is a whole category of people who will say, Lord, Lord. And my goal is not to be one of those people. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about everybody else.
Yes.
My goal is to stay out of that category. So I want my heart to be close and my life to demonstrate. So anyway, but that's where I think Paul really says, if your citizenship is in heaven, and he says this to a Roman colony where some estimate 45% of citizens in that colony were given citizenship because of their wartime service. It was the most important thing, identity marker they had in that city. And he said, your citizenship is in heaven. Man, that means something really deeply significant.
Yeah, this is a terrible metaphor, but I heard this on the radio, that they were talking about weird stories or strange facts or something like that. And they said that, a couple hundred years ago, to figure out if somebody was really dead, they would take a hot poker from a stove and put it where the sun don't shine. And if the body reacted and jumped up, they're like, oh, Frank's not dead. If he doesn't, they're like, oh, Frank's dead. And the point was, they were looking back at that and saying, like, how barbaric was that practice? But that was that was the extent of what they understood as truth in medicine at that time. They're saying that it'll be the same thing. I thought of this when you mentioned thinking of sin as cancer, or thinking of these kind of things as cancer, and having like, I can't let them just, whatever. They were using this metaphor to say that in 50 years or 100 years, we're going to look back at chemotherapy that way. Like, you guys poisoned yourselves to get rid of a disease that's killing you. But that is the extent of our science. So it's like, it's what can be true now in some of those ways that we hold as absolute truth sometimes can be, I don't know, that
on further review,
it's the sin of certainty.
Maybe not. Yeah. Well, slavery.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, the Bible's so clear about, yes, we're allowed to have slaves. And you're like, okay. The problem is when we try to guess ahead of time where our blind spots are.
Yeah.
Like, and are certain in those. Like, when people are announcing, hey, you're on the wrong side of history on this, I'm like, history is not the judge I'm worried about. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and what did you just say before that you were saying, like, you're not concerned with everybody else, but you're concerned with yourself, and how,
when I say Lord, Lord, I want to mean it. And
then what does that do in community? Like, as you're sitting in that, like, how does that infect, or how do you encourage, or how do you build? So while you are concerned with building it in yourself, how do you foster that in a larger group? And then what does that larger group do to,
Totally.
like, what's the ripples out of that?
It affects how you toward each other.
Yeah.
If you toward each other as fellow log holders, then your towarding is way different than if I think my sin's a speck and yours is a log.
Totally.
If I
but
hold
that's
on,
it, isn't it?
right. I mean, if I hold on to the biblical posture, then I'm going to toward way differently.
I have no sin as egregious as the log that you have in your eye.
Totally. Yes, exactly. All right, we got to wrap up, Timothy.
Yeah.
Well done. Man, that's such juicy stuff. Would love to hear some of your thoughts. Oh, Seth's bringing his guitar over.
Dad, where's take break?
We're not going to take a break. We're ending this sucker. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so a self gets it today.
You're going to sing today?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay, well, come on. Man, let's go, bro. What are you going to sing?
I get in, I say, oh my goodness, my heart.
Oh my goodness, my heart. Okay, let's go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and.
My goodness, I've got over my fan for so good, over a fan for, and I can say, my goodness, I've got.
Whoa,
right. Love
Sethy, wow. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, have a
Nothing
great rest of your week. Seriously. Woo! Bye.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. The Voxology Podcast is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is made possible by listeners just like you. If you'd like to partner with us, you can do so at patreon.com/Voxology Podcast or on Tithely, tithe.ly, search Voxology Podcast. You can interact with the hosts on Facebook /Voxology Podcast or on Instagram at Voxology Podcast and on Twitter or X, whatever it is, at Mike Erie. Thank you for walking this long road with us.